the outdoorsmen, they ain't coming.
Yeah.
We get 3 weeks to chase turkeys. Right in the middle of turkey season. Mother places in and come turkey hunt with me while we go to that.
Yeah.
One of these days, I'm going to drag friends that aren't saved to it, because there's a lot of guys in our realm that aren't ever going to get saved. Gotcha.
I've got some pear trees back there, right on the tree line. You can kind of see they're dead, a lot of them.
Yep.
A lot of the branches are. From there, it drops back down into the back corner, and in the evening, deer come out there big time. I'm trying to create some screening back in that back corner so that if a buck comes out, he has to go check some spots, you know, as opposed to just seeing the whole back corner.
Yeah.
So,
what's the plan with this?
This is, I want to get this to where a deer can stand, you know, 30 yards off the road and not be seen. So I want it to grow up. I mean, and all that up there is real low. It holds water a lot. So like KC and I have talked about a Alamo grass or something up there that would do well in a lowland kind of thing. I've planted some groundsels that I just transplanted from my old neighborhood in some of the holes and stuff. I don't know if you know what groundsel is, but it's like they call them trees, and they get big, but they don't really get more than probably like 15 feet tall.
Salt tolerant, you know, they use it for landscape control a lot. People don't talk about them a lot in wildlife because they're not beneficial as far as like a forage goes, but they make great cover and they're awesome pollinator plants. So.
So you can kind of see there's 2 little ones I planted right up there, but they get big and they create good. They're pretty much evergreen. I mean, like there'll be times when they're thinner, but they are pretty much an evergreen. So I like.
Yeah, we'll
them.
go look at them.
Yeah.
So it's always funny to me. People have different words for plants. Yeah. So what are your overall goals? Like, what do you want more deer? That's an obvious one. But are you trying to just have more wildlife, more birds, more wildlife opportunities for family? What is the overall goal?
Definitely having kids. You want there to be birds and stuff around that they can look at. I love pointing out stuff and going, hey, there's a painted bunting, which we've got around here. Quite a few, you know, or whatever. So I like the wildlife aspect. My main goal, because of our lifestyle, is to be able to consistently shoot decent bucks out here.
Okay.
And decent, you know, like I'm not trying to kill 4 or 5-year-olds every year.
Yeah.
3 would probably be kind of what I'm looking for. But like, there's not a whole lot of hunting pressure right in here. There's plenty of deer here, I think. I don't think it's a matter of having a ton more deer. I think we've got enough does. I think it's just a matter of getting bucks out in daylight, and so that's why I was talking about screening and growing up native grass and plum thickets and stuff like that, you know.
All right. So if our overall goal is more wildlife and with focus on whitetail deer, that basically means we need more diversity. We need as much diversity as possible, because with each plant we're going to attract a different insect, which will attract a different bird, which will provide a different forage window for whitetail deer or cover window. So it's just how much diversity can we put on the landscape. And I always say, if we want to just improve it and keep it super simple, go out and learn the main species that are in the area that we're focused on. So in this field, what are the main species? And you're going to see various sedges and rushes out here with a little bit of grass. There's not a whole lot of flowering forbs. They're scattered around here, but they're not the ones that are real attractive that deer really browse. So if you look, there's just more grass and sedge than there is really anything. And it's also not that vegetation type height that you're looking for.
Is that because it was grazed for 10 plus years hard?
Probably, yep. If you have just a blank canvas and it's filled with a bunch of non-natives, well, there's a lot of species that don't really know they're not adapted to those non-natives. So remove the non-natives, and then what do we have left? We have a whole bunch of blank area that it's left up to the natives to fill. We can either let nature tell us or try to bring some in here, but with the amount of grazing pressure that this probably had, probably not going to get the plant response we want. So overall, for me, I would be looking at try to increase the amount of forbs and taller grasses in this area, as well as how do we use nature's natural cycles to improve the landscape, and that's crazy to me. In this part of the world, grazing was a big native historical disturbance with bison herds. So we can use cattle to replicate that in a very short window that may bring income to you, but it can create a disturbance that attracts all that wildlife for your kids and keeps this in a more early succession standpoint where you get that there's a little bit of Indian paintbrush right there, and then you pull the cattle out with plenty of time of growing season left to where those plants can recover and to where it grows right back up. I don't know anybody that's ever actually done like plum cuttings. It's really popular with like elderberry.
What about out of the root? Can you like take the root with that?
Yeah, you could do that. And plums grow when you give them enough sunlight and nutrients. They can grow really fast, a couple feet or a foot a year, and it doesn't take many feet to start doing its thing. So like if you're, what I look at when you look at the aerial on X, and you're trying to just look at the natural movement patterns of deer, we've got timber to the north and a little bit timber over here, and it looks like they could go right around you and go that way. But if you start connecting them, just like the deer we pulled in, you can get it to where deer coming from the south, going to the north, I think that's right, and get me all turned around down here in this flat country, and to where you could do shrubs, do your annual screen, but then try to go into more of the natives, but then more shrubs along that boundary to where you can start creating a travel corridor of deer that can move throughout your property to where in the mornings you can slip out here and there may be a deer coming this way. Because we're smart enough guys to know that 27 acres doesn't hold a deer his entire life. So we're managing a deer herd that's going on to neighbors, going on to their neighbors, bigger areas. But if we can key in on that quality cover and forage more days out of the year than your neighbors, you create this as the home. And they're counting. Texas people bait?
They do. I know this is foreign concept to some people, especially Midwesterners. But so in my opinion, the thing that we lack here in East Texas is not food, because like Casey and I were talking about yesterday, there's always something green here. It doesn't matter if it's January or February, there's going to be something green here. They don't starve in the winter here. You know what I mean?
Well, you don't have so your biggest stress period is late summer.
Absolutely. For sure. Hot as can be, stuff starts burning up, the grass starts burning up. But they're going to have corn in the season, and that's when I'm trying to shoot them, right? So they've got plenty of food. And I'm not that I'm not going to put food on this place at all. I'm going to put a lot of it, but I want cover, because that's the thing is you've either got mature timber or you've got grazed pasture around here. And that's pretty much it. There's no crops.
And there's Parkers pea everywhere.
Deer eat it?
Yeah. And a lot of times we're trying to hunt food, right? Quail,
I'll make sure and stop some.
The property line?
Like little. It's actually, I think the bigger group of small trees right there is actually on my property, I think, but just barely. So that's real close to the line.
Sounds good.
But when we get back here, I'm not afraid to take cedar stuff. But it's a good barrier.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. It's like as a screen, would you consider this more important than getting rid of eastern red cedar because it's the screen to the other property?
Well, it goes back to that conversation we had. Is anytime you try to differentiate good and bad in native species, is like trying to ask God, like tell God that you know what plants belong here and he doesn't know. Like, you can't do that. But we can certainly look at species and say, this one's a little aggressive. Like eastern red cedar wasn't a problem until we removed fire from the landscape, and then it became an issue. So that's where I draw the line of eastern red cedar is not a problem if we're burning. It's a problem if we break nature's natural cycles.
Poke salad, as we call it around here. Everybody around here calls it that. So when you're talking about speciation, when it comes to like herbaceous plants like that, is it kind of like trees, where depending on who you talk to, there's different species?
You know, like there's post oaks, but then some guys say there's sand post oaks, and then there's a standard post oak.
Hybridized, yeah.
Yeah.
I know a guy, I talked with a guy who owns a tree nursery, and he's like, anybody who tells me they can point to a true blue 100%, this is a white oak, I'm telling them they don't know trees, because he says almost every tree that I find on landscape has been hybridized at some point because they're cross-pollinated.
Yeah, sure.
And they're close enough relation that they can do that. And so, but with goldenrods, there's all kinds of different types.
Kind of like milkweeds.
Kind of like milkweeds, yeah.
So on that note, I had thought about like burning sections year to year, you know, like not burning the whole pasture.
Don't burn the whole pasture.
Yeah, you know, but
if
like,
you could set it up to where there's like 6 different burn units, and I would probably invest in a disc rather than a harrow if you can, or borrow one, because it's going to do a lot better job at establishing a fire break. But if you could just run it off and make rectangles out here and just spray it or mow it and then come back and disc it to where you can get to bare ground, you can mow all these different areas over the course of the year and be much better off for the wildlife, especially if they're work quail.
How deep or intense can you disc before you start destroying the biome?
I don't really get too, like, I would rather lightly disc than sink a harrow. If the harrow is going up, like if he took that harrow back and it was sharp, he could almost, a harrow looks very similar to a chisel plow that they use that gets 12 inches deep. So I would rather just lightly disc. That disturbance is beneficial for a lot of species, and disturb 5 foot.
I got you.
yeah, yeah.
Longer monoculture because they can't go in there and cut it, and like, you know, stuff's growing up and stuff.
Yeah, you know, it's not very profitable for people.
Look at this, and you're like, oh, look at all the ragweed. Look at the partridge pea. But then below that, you're like, coastal Bermuda.
Well, that's in the track where I've killed everything but the Bermuda from running over it with a truck, you know.
We do have Mexican chicken salt. Is it all Prunus americana? We were talking about that on Instagram.
What has been told to us over the last 20 years? To grow big deer, whole big deer,
take them out.
Buy a bag with a big deer on it.
Plant food plots, put out mineral, plant fruit trees, no fence, water holes, mock scrapes, all this stuff that's going to make it hinge cut. I'll just try to name some of the other fads. That's about the main
Switchgrass.
Yeah, switchgrass.
Yeah.
All these things, which we start flirting the line, but at the same time, it's like none of those, to my knowledge, of the ones I just listed, are any kind of way to manage on a broad scale. You're on 26 acres here. Why could you not manage every acre of this place? There's no reason you couldn't. You got a little food plot, you got a little mineral site, you've got a mock scrape, you're just scratching the surface. We manage to maximize the farm. So all that stuff, we're throwing it out the window because we need to manage timber, we need to manage open areas, we need to diversify, and we need to manage with 80 grit mindset where we're going to manage a whole lot of this place. And then once we get the landscape healthier, then we'll look at tweaking a few things to make it more huntable. But just maximizing it makes it more huntable already because we're creating a landscape that they're more productive in, they're more comfortable in, they have more groceries, they have more cover, they have more security. But if we just try to do what we've been told, we're going to lose.
Yeah.
It's a business plan that's going to fail. All these things are just really hunting strategies. They're not managing the landscape. And so that's what we want to do. And then once we get there, then we can talk about, okay, let's edge feather to create some bottlenecks.
So KC came up with this idea, but when you talk about edge feathering,
a
lot of times you're talking about, it seems like a lot of people talk about managing from the edge in.
Yeah.
But what about growing the edge out? You know what I mean?
You can do both, and I would encourage
That's what
you
I
to
would
do
want
both.
to do, I think, here.
So you could plant shrubs out here, you could plant native flowering plants if you wanted, you could plant native grasses, you could promote brambles, blackberry, you could do all that out here, and then once you come in here, we can look around and see, just standing here I can see some species, I'm like, man, these would be great to cut treat the stump because we're in Texas.
Yeah.
We need herbaceous plants.
Herbaceous with herbicide, right?
With herbicide. and it's kind of like I don't see a lot of guys coming to my part of the world to make hunting shows. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure there's not many guys coming to your part of the world to make hunting shows. Yeah, either in senderos with corn trickled out on the road.
It's closer to your house than it is to that.
Yeah.
From here.
Okay. Yeah. So we need to manage for this site.
Yeah. All right. So what do you think about cedar elm trees?
I think you can cut them.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your goal?
With timber management, I don't care to make money off of it.
Okay.
We don't have the species really to make great timber money anyway. So
you're looking for improved habitat then.
Yep. So I think of this as bedding sanctuary, habitat, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So I want to treat it that way, but that doesn't mean I'm opposed to opening up the canopy and letting that bedding grow from the ground up. You know what I mean?
We'll step in there and take a look. If we're looking at improving the edge, we talked over there about the cliff versus the staircase. We've got all these wonderful Chickasaw plums right here, which are providing soft mass and cover. So late summer during stress period. Well, when do these produce for you guys? Now till when do they stop producing?
It's like 2 weeks. It's quick.
Okay. So pretty quick. So if we can get some diversity in our plums, go with an American plum or something that's going to produce a little later than the Chickasaws, we can get another window of food availability on your place, but at the same time we're still getting cover aspect. Mm-hmm. So during the fall, leaves fall. When are they falling around here?
In fall.
November.
November?
Yeah.
Okay, so November, leaves are falling. The only thing that's screening is the cedar trees, right? Mm-hmm. So if a deer is standing 20 yards back, there's no leaves, he can see out there pretty good ways, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we improve the edge and let this stuff grow up, because now there's no cows in here, so it's going to grow up a lot more this year than it did last year and the 20 years before that. So it's going to grow up. At the same time, you put some of this woody structure, these elms on the ground. You release these plums to where they produce more fruit and they grow and they're healthier. Now we've created a barrier that if a deer is standing in there, he can't see what's out here in this field. Mm-hmm. So if we go down 150 yards to your stand and there's a deer on the inside of the woods and you've grunted, he has to come out to see who's out here. Mm-hmm. And so not only are we proving the cover for security to where he feels safer, but we've also improved the huntability because now they have to move to see, or they have to move to smell.
What are your thoughts on fertilizing an edge like this?
No point. These are all natives. They're used to this. They're used to this soil type. There's no point. It's wasted money. We can use that money elsewhere.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Even fertilizing oaks has been proven not to produce any more acorns. Or acorns. I feel comfortable to say that down here.
That's right.
Sure.
Welcome to the zone of comfort.
It feels so good. It's freedom I've never felt. And so,
if anything, go up and hack that thing with a hatchet, right? Stress it out. That's the way you're going to get it to produce acorns. Not that that's a good idea.
No, I wouldn't do that. But you can. That's basically, in theory, what we're doing with grasses and even mineral stumps is stressing a tree to where it's trying to produce growth so it can make that next generation. But if you cut these elms and you cut the cedars, we're now putting more cover on the ground, more food availability. We're releasing the nutrients to these other herbaceous plants. We're going to provide more food during the summer. Overall, we're checking 2 boxes: improve huntability and improve habitat. What's not to love about that?
Nothing.
Nothing not to love. Cool.
That's the Chickasaw when it's blooming.
That smells pretty good.
I've never really
American plum has this sweet smell.
You don't understand when I say bodog? Bodog. Yeah, but there's an R in there. No, it's not.
Come here.
I got
Tyler.
cactus. I got prickly pear.
Look at something here.
Pretty cool, man.
Kind of pretty looking.
It was really cool to have Adam come out and check out our properties. These are places that we're going to be hunting in the fall and hopefully years in advance as well. So hopefully these projects that we're working on around here are going to help come to fruition with deer production, maybe some harvest and that kind of thing, and just seeing more wildlife in particular, which is something that Adam is really passionate about. So go check out Land and Legacy. Matt and Adam do some really cool things. They're intelligent, knowledgeable about a lot of things. But the projects that we are doing right now on this property, or that I'm doing, and Casey's going to help me with a little bit of this first one, but screening. We're going to screen the road, and then also the adjoining property owner. They're going to be building soon, so I want to try to screen some of the noise stuff with pines from KC's property, hopefully, as well as just visual seclusion for this property. Hopefully this stuff will grow up over the next few years. We'll get some native grasses, some switchgrass, maybe some more pines going throughout. Plum thickets is something I really want to do out in the pasture, just to give different splotches throughout for deer to travel in and out and have that seclusion here and there when they feel like they need it. Also for bedding and that kind of thing, closer up this way. So back in the back though, I've been working on the forest stand improvement. I've cut a lot of cedars out and a few other non-desirables like elm trees and that kind of thing. I'm trying to create some sunlight in there, bring some vines down by doing that as well. And then I've also created bedding in that area as well. So the thing is, a lot of times around here, hogs will take the prime bedding and push deer out. And the first time I walked into my first cut back there a couple weeks ago, busted out a big sounder of hogs. So they're obviously, I created good bedding. We just have to deal with the hog problem now. We've got a big boar that's coming in on the trail camera every night, eating a little bit of soured corn. So maybe we'll do something about that with the bow, and we'll put that link up for you when we do, if we do, and if it all works out. After that, it's basically going to be a deal where we get after them with some repeating arms and try to get them to scare out of the country essentially, and maybe have a few to make bacon out of as well, to go with my chicken sandwiches over here, because my chicken's got a hurt foot. So anyway, make sure you subscribe if you like this kind of stuff. We're going to be doing a little bit more of this, showing our properties and that kind of thing. Comment below if you have any thoughts about what we should do, and like the video. Notifications are at the bell. Check that out, all the good stuff. And remember, this is your element. Live in it.